everybody. We're gonna try to be as loud as we can. The microphone isn't working right now, so you can let us know if we need to be a bit louder. Hello and welcome to Jewish Voice for Peace Rhode Island's opening ceremony for our Solidarity Fast for Gaza. I'm Kate and this is Liliana, and we are both members of JBPRI and your MCs this evening. Whether you are choosing to fast alongside us, participate in our programming over the weekend, or both, or just walking by and you happen to join us, we are so grateful that you are here. We are exactly 20 months into Israel's horrific and escalated genocide against Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, and almost 100 days into their forced and weaponized starvation of Gazans as a tactic of ethnic cleansing with U.S. support and complicity. So I'll just let that sit for a second. We are here this weekend fasting in solidarity with Gazans to be in community with one another as we share our grief and rage, learn and make art together, and recommit ourselves to Palestinian liberation by unequivocally saying, "Stop starving Gaza, let Gaza live." This evening we have a brief yet powerful program with some words from local community members that will hopefully help ground us as we commence the fast, and we will talk more about tomorrow's programming in a bit. How's the volume so far? Okay, more louder? Sorry, okay. First up, we have Joshua Blaine, a JVP member, cultural organizer, and student of the Torah of Nonviolence, to help situate us a bit more around why we are here this weekend.
Shalom Aleichem, Salam Alaikum, Shabbat Shalom, belated Chag Sameach, and Eid Mubarak, which I will say a few words about in a few moments. My name is Joshua Harris Borashek Blaine. I'm the son of Judy and Jerry Blaine, who is the son of Dina and Armin, who is the daughter of Esther and Moshe Yaakov. My father was born in Germany in 1947 to two parents who barely survived the Shoah. And I heard stories from my grandmother Dina and many others, of course, who have written and spoken about this, about the role of hunger and starvation and the withholding of food in that catastrophe. And here I am saying, not in my name and not in my lineage, do we do this to the Palestinian people. And we have 100 of us now, I hear, who have committed in Rhode Island to stand in solidarity. 100 days into Monday marks 100 days of withholding food and water and supplies and aid to the people of Gaza. So I'm going to say a little bit more about why hunger fast broadly, and for me personally. It was mentioned that I'm a student of the Torah of Nonviolence. What does that mean? I am initiated into a new pilgrimage order that Rabbi Lynn Gottlieb initiated and ordained by Rabbi Everett Gendler, Zichrono Livracha, of blessed memory, who was the reason why Abraham Joshua Heschel was marching on the bridge with Dr. King. Ordained Rabbi Lynn in this lineage of the Torah of Nonviolence, which now about 50 of us around the country are walking this path, that deepens into this commitment to a revolutionary Jewish nonviolence. And hunger strike is one of the tactics, one of the techniques that has been leveraged going back to Gandhi, before Gandhi, but Gandhi very famously used hunger strike, who is a giant in the lineage of nonviolence. But many other movements have used hunger strike as a last resort. Labor strikes, of course, are a key tactic of nonviolence. And the hunger strike is an act of desperation when times of desperation call us to do more, to put our bodies on the line. Rabbi Lynn wrote recently, "Words are empty bones in this time." That we can't just speak words, we need to put our bodies on the line. We need to act in ways that materially show that we stand with the people of Gaza and the Palestinian movement for liberation. The Irish Republic and Republicans in the Irish fight for liberation and freedom have used hunger fasts and hunger strikes many times from 1923 all the way up until the 80s and beyond. Palestinians in 2012 used the hunger strike tactic, and probably in many other moments. Venezuelan students, Guantanamo Bay prisoners, people protesting against the Cold War in the Reagan era used hunger strike. Other prisoners and climate activists have used hunger strike. So we stand in the lineage that's more than 100 years old, probably even older than that, but in the modern history of nonviolent resistance, we are joining, and today we are joining with Veterans for Peace, who have been doing a 40-day fast, solidarity fast, since May 22nd all the way until the end of this month. Myself and others are joining either in entirety or in chains, and we are a part of that chain. So I just want all of us to feel the people at our back, the people at our shoulders here and broadly in what we are doing today. I'm curious, raise of hands, who's actually committed to fasting as part of this effort today? All right, take a look around, notice who you're with. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I know each and every one of us, whether you raise your hand or not, are contributing by your presence, perhaps by your contributions. We're raising money here also for Mecca. There's one story of hunger striking I want to bring to you that I got the honor of hearing just about a month ago on this path of study with Rabbi Lynn. She brought one of her fellow organizers with Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity, Jose Ruben Hernandez. We know in JVP that this struggle for Palestinian liberation is intersectional. That the fight over there is the same but different, and the same as the fight for those undocumented folks who are being targeted, certainly now by Trump. But this story takes place in 2022, 2023, knowing that the corporate centrist establishment, Democrat, Republican, are different, and perhaps still, though different, incredibly harmful. Jose Ruben Hernandez, under the Biden administration, was detained unjustly and criminally in an ICE detention facility, and the conditions were horrific, from getting paid nothing, next to nothing, for labor that was degrading, to sexual violence, to terribly inhumane conditions for one's health, physical, mental, spiritual. And he started to organize, as an organizer does, and they retaliated, put into solitary confinement, and they finally in 2023 went on a hunger strike. And he was transferred along with two other folks. This was in California, in a nice detention facility in California, transferred to a place in Texas, basically kidnapped under nightfall, taken without consent, without knowledge, without legal representation, to a place in Texas. Why? Because they practiced forced feeding there. Forced feeding, an inhumane tactic that is considered torture, that has resulted in death, and in this case caused great harm to Jose Ruben Hernandez. And in the end, he was released, in his words, because he felt like he had become a liability to the system. So they had to let him go. This is an example of incredible samud, of incredible steadfastness. He's still disabled to this day from this experience. But he spoke to us with an incredible chutzpah, an incredible chiyut, a life force, and connection to spirit. And one of the things he said when we asked him, how did you stay connected? How did you do this? How did you stay samud? How did you stay committed? And he said it was community. It was gathering with other people. So here we are in the lineage and in the wisdom of those who've come before in this fight as we gather here today and tomorrow. A few more words, including about Eid. Eid, I understand, is a festival of celebration, of feasting, honoring the story of Abraham and Isaac, honoring faith. And of course, we and I stand here with such embarrassment, shame, heartbreak, rage that people in Gaza can't have a regular meal, let alone a feast, let alone a celebration. And I want to read some words to you from my friend Heini in Gaza, who have been, like many of us, I imagine, developing a relationship to thanks to the wild worlds of Instagram. And he wrote this just a couple of days ago. To those who went out looking for sustenance for their children and never returned. To those who came to the market to buy Eid clothes for their children and returned in the shroud of death. To those whose work, dreams, and family ties have come to a standstill. No work, no spouses, no children, and no loved ones. To those who fled the ruins of their homes, sleeping on the ground and taking the sky as their blankets, their children homeless, relieving themselves in the streets. To those who go to bed in fear and wake up to death, while in between lies a raging fire, constricting chests, holding their breath, and innocence without guilt, waiting for someone to recognize them and console them in their ordeal. There will never be perfection in this world, and the reward awaits those who died before realizing their dreams will remain. They are the poor immigrants. The entire world has abandoned us. Arabs before non-Arabs, infidels before Muslims, and I wondered who we are. And what are we? Humans, jinn, angels, or nothing? And why are we despised? And why are we at the back of the ranks? Perhaps we are not even counted. The city of Gaza has fallen from history, geography, and humanity. In the Torah this week, we read the longest portion, and it's about who counts. And it's deeply militarized. Who counts for military service? Today, we say to Heini and the many others that we know here and that we know about, you count. You matter to us. And we're doing this with our bodies over these next 24 hours. Thank you all for being here. And may peace come quickly and in our midst.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Right now, in addition to signing up to fast with us for the next 24 hours and donating to Mecca, we are asking that folks, if you are not currently involved with JVP Rhode Island and are interested in getting involved, Liz, who's up there, want to wave your hand, Liz? We'll be going around with a clipboard. We welcome Jewish and non-Jewish allies alike. Joshua referred to the 1981 hunger strike in Northern Ireland, in the north of Ireland, of folks incarcerated by the British state. I was actually lucky enough to go yesterday with comrades to the famine memorial and the hunger strike memorial just on the other side of the park over there where they were commemorating, and several folks were interested in joining us. And I think it's so important at times like this that we come together, different organizations from different backgrounds. And I was very grateful to be a part of that. And we have some folks who will be joining us over the course of the next day from that group as well. Next, we are excited to have up Milo Giovaniello as an organizer with JVP Rhode Island and the Deportation Defense Coalition.
Hi all, and thank you for being here. You can't hear me. Hi, and thank you for being here. My name's Milo, and I'm an organizer with the Deportation Defense Network and with JVP. We're gathered here today in solidarity with the Palestinian people of Gaza, who are being actively starved by the Zionist entity, who are being attacked at sites where they are told there will be aid. In just the past week, more than 600 people were wounded or killed at these so-called aid distribution points. And we know that these past 20 months of genocide are only the latest phase of the ongoing ethnic cleansing that has been happening since the beginning of the Zionist colonial project, which started in the late 1800s and intensified dramatically with the Nakba of 1948. I'm speaking today about the Deportation Defense Network because we know that in order to effectively fight the forces of colonialism and imperialism abroad, we must also fight them here at home. Our only hope for creating a world without imperialist violence, a world where Palestine is free and all oppressed peoples are free, is deep international solidarity against all forms of imperialism. The United States is one of the biggest drivers of imperialism today. The US sees its interests and goals reflected in the interests and goals of the Zionist entity. And Israel and the US act in unity to colonize, to ethnically cleanse, and to enact genocide against the Palestinian people. In the same vein, the US supports violent regimes and destroys any government or people's movement that threatens its power. And when people flee that violence and attempt to enter the US to have a chance at securing a livelihood, the US in turn attempts to detain and deport people. Whether it's through active genocide, ethnic cleansing, bombing, deportation, or brutal labor exploitation, imperialism will use any method of violence for the sake of its own interests. But just as we know that Israel and the US will never succeed, that the Palestinian people will be free, we also know that the US will never succeed in its deportation machine, in kidnapping our neighbors and loved ones and community members from us. Building on the strength of this local solidarity movement for Palestine that our community has built up since October 7th, thousands of people in Rhode Island have mobilized as part of the movement to stop ICE terror, another manifestation of US imperialism. Building on Amor's work to organize deportation defense since Trump's first presidency, the coalition has been able to expand Amor's support line so that anyone can call to report if they see ICE in the community, if they see cops and are worried it might be ICE, or if they see a kidnapping happening in real time. The defense line is staffed daily from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. with a diligent team of volunteer Spanish-English speaking operators. When a call is received, a verifier is immediately dispatched to the location reported to determine if ICE is there and what support is needed. Verifiers talk with neighbors, store owners, and community members to figure out what's happening and to spread the word about the Deportation Defense Network. If ICE is indeed active at the site, or if a kidnapping is happening, the coalition mobilizes, turning people out to protect whoever is at risk of being detained. Coordinated outreach has been essential to making sure that the Deportation Defense Network can effectively respond to ICE terror. We've built a capable infrastructure to organize rapid response, but it's not useful unless people know and use the defense line. That's why we've been organizing neighborhood outreach teams who are flyering, talking to businesses, workers, and residents, spreading the word about the hotline, letting people know how to use it, and also sharing essential information that people can use to keep themselves and each other safe. Over the past 4 months, we've talked to thousands of our neighbors and distributed over 10,000 outreach materials, each of which includes Know Your Rights information and the Deportation Defense Line number. If you're interested in getting plugged in to one of our neighborhood organizing teams, please come talk to me afterwards. I'm not done. The defense line has continued to field calls responding to ICE's kidnappings and ICE's increased presence in our communities. The coalition has also been actively supporting families who've been impacted by these kidnappings. 2 weeks ago, 3 of our loud neighbors were shipped from the Wyatt to Texas. We are heartbroken along with their families, and we are continuing to fight for Vanity, Manutam, and Keck, as well as for GMG, our Venezuelan neighbor from Central Falls, and for the man who was kidnapped from Parade Street last month, and for all of our people who have been unjustly kidnapped and who we join in their fight for freedom. Members of the Deportation Defense Network worked with families to stage a protest outside of the Wyatt that delayed the transfer during the deportation process by almost 4 hours. And we know that that is not nearly enough. We will never stop fighting until all our neighbors and everyone detained at the Wyatt is free, until we put an end to the deportation machine and get rid of ICE. We will never stop fighting until we end U.S. imperialism across the globe, from Palestine to Guatemala, from Haiti to the Philippines, from Guam to North Korea, from Puerto Rico to Vietnam. And our current struggle against ICE to fight for the dignity of our immigrant neighbors is part of this longer struggle. We learn every day from the strength and resolve, the samud of the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people are our North Star in the fight against imperialism. And we will never stop fighting until Palestine is free. From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free!
From the sea to the river,
Palestine will be forever!
Thank you.
Thank you to Milo and the Deportation Defense Coalition for your vital work here in Providence and Rhode Island, all of Rhode Island, not just Providence. We are now honored to invite up Layla Shana, a Palestinian dietitian and eating disorder specialist based here in Providence.
Ahlan, everybody. I don't do a lot of public speaking, so I'll probably read from my phone the whole time. Ahlan, Eid Mubarak. My name is Layla Shana. I'm based here in Providence, the owner of Olive Branch Nutrition Therapy. I specialize mostly in eating disorders. My family is from northern Palestine. My mother's side from the villages of Sabsaf and Dabke. My father's side from the village of Teitaba, both outside of the city of Safad in northern Palestine. My grandmother would say she's just from Safad because she wanted to be known as a city girl, but she was a farmer. We were displaced in 48, settling in Ain and Hilwi refugee camp in Lebanon before coming to the States. Me being born in the States, it's become increasingly important for me, my brothers, my cousins, to talk about Palestine, bring that into every area of our lives.
Louder, please.
Okay, I'll try. To bring Palestine into the spaces we can reach. We owe it to Palestine because it gave us our resiliency, our deep bonds, and a duty. The bulk of my work is supporting people who are recovering from eating disorders as well as malnutrition, really for any reason. For many years, this topic felt personal, individualistic, simply like something I was trained to help individuals overcome. The eating disorder field, although very white, is typically not afraid to get political. We talk about racism, health inequity, body diversity, food insecurity, feminism. But when Palestine came up, when starvation came up, my calls from our field, the field of starvation and treating starvation, to rise against systematic starvation and hold our own government accountable for it, was met with, at best, silence, with we're choosing to stay neutral on this topic, and at worst was met with victim blaming Gaza for the systematic starvation of its people. I wish I could say this shocked me, but it didn't. It's happened before. Every time Palestine comes up in these spaces, there's radio silence or there is condescension. Starvation, malnutrition, refeeding syndrome, all things we work with our patients every single day to heal, is being manufactured by a genocidal colonial project that we all pay into. But we're choosing to be neutral, as if that's a possible stance. Food is deeply political. When Israel shuts off the water, it's to starve our crops. When Israel creates a blockade, it's to starve our brains and bodies. And when Israel steals our cuisine, our traditions, olive trees, figs, dates, oranges, lebni, hummus, the lifeblood of Palestine, they attempt to steal our very souls. We see not just agricultural destruction, but the attempted destruction of identity, security, and our sense of self. With a concern of lack of water, because Israel has so creatively demolished the irrigation systems in Palestine so they can shut it off whenever they want. There's also comes a concern for foodborne illness, poor sanitary conditions. If people don't get sick from the scarcity, they could get sick from a secondary circumstance. Israel has completely ruined Gaza's economy, so even where there is some food, people don't have money to buy the food. Something we see frequently in eating disorders is a destabilized identity. Who am I? What are my values? How do I fit into my community? This is all triggered by a starved brain. The neural pathways shut down, cognition decreases. This creates a disconnect from our community and from ourselves. This is a common colonial tactic. It's not a new one. We've seen it before in many colonizations. In 2006, Israeli senior official actually notes a specific policy to put Palestinians on a diet, but not to make them die of hunger. Israeli authorities drew up a document calculating the minimum caloric intake necessary for Palestinians to avoid malnutrition without causing outright death. At this point, they're really not holding back anymore. It's their goal. They've made it clear that starvation is their goal, and they have no issue with it. Not that they ever did. So they've made that clear enough to us. What starvation does to the body is completely incalculable. It creates intrusive ruminative and suicidal thinking, enhanced trauma symptoms, impacted emotional regulation, hormonal dysfunction, organ deterioration, impaired wound healing, cardiac and neurological issues, and risk of death upon refeeding the individual. With slowed healing, there is much greater risk for infection. As we know, many thousands of Palestinians recovering from amputations and from all kinds of injuries from bombs. That cannot be cleaned and sanitized without water and cannot be healed without food. Then there's the concern that once Palestinians have food, we will not be able to medically support them through the renourishing process. This will not ensure safe refeeding, which can cause death, cardiac issues, electrolyte abnormalities. When I worked on an inpatient eating disorder unit, someone coming in starvation, labs twice a day, vitals 3 times a day, have a dietitian, you have a doctor, you have a therapist, you have nurses around the clock. And Gaza does not have that. There is a point that the starvation could reach that is extremely risky upon resolving it. Israel's made this impossible to address, obviously. They've obliterated the medical system in Gaza, targeting hospitals and healthcare workers at completely unprecedented levels of war criminality. Then we have here in the States, healthcare workers terrified to speak up about Palestine for fear of retaliation. We've been forced to abandon our oath in doing that. It's only through an incredible amount of luck that I can work for myself and really just say whatever the fuck I want. But I couldn't in my last job. Our healthcare workers have been forced to abandon this oath, despite the fact that our medical system here in the States only is what it is because of Black and brown immigrants. The very families these academic and medical institutions pay so much money to bomb and starve and colonize. In addition, we've seen Palestinians needing to flee over and over and over again on foot with no energy left to do so. There's no food to nourish them through that process anymore, putting them at greater risk for more attacks. There's really no need for statistics anymore, because at this point 100% of Gaza is experiencing acute and long-term starvation. Starvation impacts your DNA, creating a risk for nutrition disorders and a famine response for generations. For pregnant Palestinians, we have increased risk of miscarriage, birth defects, maternal death. For moms having trouble nursing, they're not getting the nutrition they need to feed their baby. For babies who need formula because their mother is too malnourished or their mother was killed, which is a more likely scenario, they have no formula. A baby coming into the world experiencing that level of torture is hard to grasp. And a parent witnessing that torture is hard to grasp. So let's think about how these symptoms might be for someone in Gaza right now, on top of the existential crisis and the fear for their safety and the safety of those around them. How might all these symptoms exacerbate an already traumatic circumstance? We already know that malnutrition alone can trigger eating disorders and a variety of other mental health conditions due to its impact on the brain. The depravity of starving someone is hard to imagine. Like many cultures, food is our hub of connection, showing love to one another, maintaining our sense of self and our identity and ritual. Naomi Wolf is weird now, so don't look her up, but she did have a good quote about diet culture that in the eating disorder field we quote for white feminism purposes, but it is kind of applicable. She said, "Dieting is the most potent political sedative in women's history. A quietly mad population is a tractable one. meaning a starved population is a very easy one to control. And she's absolutely right. Settler colonialism stops at nothing to destabilize these things, for greater control and opportunity for land seizure. When my family fled in 48, they wouldn't leave their homes initially. When they did leave, they thought they were coming back, but they didn't want to leave. But when they heard that children were being attacked, killed, that was where they drew the line. They said, okay, you can starve us, you can kill us, but to ask an Arab mother to watch her children starve, she will try to protect her baby and leave. So they're hoping for further displacement. They know where the sore spots are. And to continue this narrative, the Palestinians are just leaving. We just want to go on vacay for some reason. And it's just kind of the same game over and over again. If you've never experienced Ramadan or fasting or starvation of any kind, this is your opportunity to see what it's like. How it affects your senses. Take it in, how it affects your brain, your mood, your body, how you perceive your environment, how you perceive yourself. To step into that's very powerful. And I hope this will deepen your appreciation for what's happening in Gaza right now. And anybody seeking more resources on starvation, colonialism, eating disorders, I highly recommend Gloria Lucas of Nalgona Positivity Pride. She does amazing work in this area, has a lot of education in this area. And of course, I'm always happy to provide any more resources for anybody who would like them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Layla. There was a lot there that I did not know, and I think it provides incredible context and also a really good framing as we go into the next 24 hours for how to approach this solidarity fast. I think there's, this is a tactic that has been used for a very long time, and yet it is still questioned about, why it is that we're going forward with something like this. And I think that was really good to hear for all of us. Thank you. In addition to the Solidarity Fast, as I mentioned before, we are currently raising money for the Middle East Children's Alliance, a trusted provider of urgently needed food, water, medication, and psychological support to the children and families in Gaza. They are one of the only groups that are on the ground that are actually able to provide these. We have a QR code and a link floating around. If you have not yet donated, we urge you to do so. We suggest making a donation in the amount of funds you would have spent on food during a 24-hour fast. I do have an updated number in terms of how money we have already been able to raise. We currently have, we had a goal of $2,400. We have raised $3,319 so far. I also want to say that we have a postcard making station up there on top of the bridge. We are writing to our representatives here in Rhode Island, AMO and Magaziner, to support the Block the Bombs bill in DC. And we encourage all of you, if you are a Rhode Islander, to reach out to your representative and write to them on the postcard. Finally, I want to invite our final speaker. We do have a few quick announcements at the end, but first I would like to invite Rabbi Lex Rofeberg, who lives here in Federal Hill and serves as the senior Jewish educator for Judaism Unbound. Rabbi Lex will lead us in a havdalah ritual.
Hello, everybody. So we're about to take on a ritual called havdalah, and it's appropriate in a number of ways for this moment. One is that it's done every single week when you're on the precipice between Shabbat and the rest of the week. Havdalah means differentiation. It marks the meeting point, the collision between Shabbat and the rest of the week. And the culminating moment of it is actually when the key symbol of Shabbat, wine, and the key symbol of the rest of the week, fire, meet one another. And so that will be happening soon. Havdalah, first off, we're literally on a bridge between two sides of something, which I think is worth inhabiting as a signifier, not just for this Havdalah ritual, where it is on a precipice between two time markers, Shabbat and the rest of the week, but also because Havdalah is a meditation on more than just the separation between Shabbat as sacred time and the rest of the week as differently sacred time, mundane time. It's also a moment where we sit in the differentiation, the separation between that which we are and that which we want to be. It's a moment where, in a very compact service, it's only four blessings. It's very sensory, and what's interesting about it is it takes all of the senses except one. For most Ashkenazi Jews, it takes the four senses that are not taste. As I mentioned, the culminating moment is when wine and fire meet, and the wine is not drunk at many Havdalah services. And so it's an important moment for us as we embark on this fast to be able to soak into the sacredness of ritual that doesn't involve eating or drinking. And it's also a meditation on the ways in which human beings actually have a kind of superpower, according to Jewish tradition. There's a misconception that God is the divine being solely in Jewish tradition. God creates the reality of our universe. And that's actually, according to the Talmud, not true. According to the Talmud, human beings have the ability to define when Shabbat ends and when it doesn't. According to the Talmud, if you don't do the ritual we're about to do, Shabbat actually keeps on going. It continues, and it can go all the way until Tuesday morning. So, by human beings taking on this ritual, we actually enact the metaphysical reality of our universe. We actually take sacred time, Shabbat, and mark by our own actions the creation of a different world. Havdalah is a meditation on the superpowers that when we actually bind together, when we actually commit to something together, we have the ability to upend and change the fabric of our reality. Havdalah does that in 4 short blessings. You say a blessing over wine, which marks, okay, we're exiting Shabbat, which is marked by wine. You say a blessing over some spices that will be circulating around the room, which are an invitation to really smell in, really soak in the sanctity of Shabbat and hold it a little bit for the rest of the week. We're trying to hold the aspirational time that is Shabbat and remember what that's like and try to channel it into a world that is not yet what we want it to aspirationally be. So that's the second blessing of spices. The third is the blessing over our flame, which marks that we're entering into non-Shabbat time. The flame is a something that is created during the week and according to traditional Jews is not created on Shabbat. And then the last blessing marks the distinction between that which is elevated, kodesh, and that which is mundane, chol. And in that moment, we embark into the rest of the week. And so what I'm going to ask everybody to do is take a second and hold whatever your Shabbat is. I know many here are Jewish and many here aren't, but you've had a past 24 hours. And my hope is that you've had something within it that you can hold and channel into this next week and into the coming weeks and months and years of this fight in solidarity with Palestinians for a world where they have the freedom and dignity that they deserve, which they do not, and which Israel is depriving them of. So take a second and breathe in the aspirational world that you're hoping to create and some sliver of something that you held with you in this Shabbat. Hold it, and then in a couple minutes as we embark into the rest of the week, figure out a way, truly, in the next 24 hours ideally, because we'll all be meditating on this, but if not the next 24 hours, the next 6 days, to take a tangible step to channel that into the creation of a better universe, into a creation of a universe where Palestinians are not being forcibly starved and killed by the Israeli government every single day. Humanity as a collective has the power to define the fabric of our universe. That is what my tradition teaches us. We have the ability to define when something is sacred and when it's not. Right now, we're not, as a collective humanity, stepping up to the plate to make sure that the lives of Palestinians are being treated with the basic humanity that they have, and which it said at the very beginning of Genesis is allocated to every single human being. B'Tselem Elohim Baran. We are going to create that world. We are going to do it together, and we're going to do it with the help of our Jewish traditions, with the help of other religious traditions, with the help of Muslim traditions, with the help of Christian traditions, with the help of secular traditions. Whatever set of people are here today, we're going to channel that, because there is no world that can continue to be until we find a way to celebrate the humanity of everybody inhabiting it. And so we're going to do this havdalah service together, and I hope that through its wine, through its fire, through its spices, we are woken up to the reality we need to create. We gain a sense of 4 of our 5 senses and launch into a ritual of the next 24 hours where we'll continue to not soak into that 5th sense, because there's a 3-word Hebrew phrase, ve'achalta, ve'savata, uve'rachta. It says, we eat, you will eat and you will be satisfied, and then you will bless. That's the anchor statement for why there's a blessing after the meals. And what that points us to is, in a world where we're not satisfied, you will eat, you will be satisfied, you will bless. In a world where we're not satisfied with the reality that we see, where Palestinians, again, are being forcibly deprived of food, where children are being killed daily, we take a second to not do that ve'achalta, to not do that eat, because we're not satisfied. And yet still we will bless, we will seek to create the world that the Palestinians deserve, and which all humanity deserves. And so I'll sing a brief intro paragraph to this, and then for those who know the 4 Hebrew blessings, I invite you to sing along, and we'll do our havdalah service. I sent to the ritual group, the signal, the blessings, if there are people on that, and you can share it with your neighbors. But I'll sing this first part on my own, and then I'll invite the candle to be lit. הנה על ישועתי אבטח ולא אפחד, כי עוזי בזמרת יד. אדוני ויהי לי לישועה, ושבת מים בששון ממענה הישועה. לאדוני הישועה, לעמך ברכתך סלע. אדוני צבאות עמנו, משגב לנו, אלוהי יעקב סלע. אדוני צבאות, אשרי אדם בוטח בך. אדוני הושיע, המלך יעננו, ביום קוראנו. ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר, כן תהיה לנו כוס ישועות אשא. ובשם אדוני אקרא, ובשם אדוני אקרא. Go ahead and light up. You can stay sitting. For those who know this, we're going to sing the melody from Debbie Friedman. It's a well-known havdalah melody, and especially poetic to use during Pride Month, as she was a queer Jewish musician who became one of the most notable Jewish musicians of our time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen, borei peri hagafen, mi, ore mi nevesami. Yai na ya na 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 na, yai na 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 na, yai na 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 na, yai na 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 na. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei meorei ha'esh, borei meorei ha'esh. Yai na ya na 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 na, yai na ya na 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 na, yai na ya na 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 na, yai na 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 na. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavdil ben kodesh lechol, hamavdil ben kodesh lechol. Yai na ya na 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 na, yai na ya na 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 na, yai na ya na 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 na, yai na 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 na. Shavua Tov, wishing everybody a meaningful week and wishing everyone a meaningful fast who is fasting. May we channel it into a better world. May we channel it into a world free of genocide of Palestinians. May we channel it into a world where we actually have what we aspire to, which is freedom and equality of dignity for everybody inhabiting it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Rabbi Lex for leading us through that havdalah. Before we invite up Zohar for a few final announcements, we just have one other timely announcement that so we're doing the fundraiser for Mecca for Middle East Children's Alliance, and actually the executive director from Mecca is going to be here next Sunday, June 15th at 2 p.m. at the Rhode Island Indian Council on Broad Street. So he is leading something called Nurturing Samud in a Time of Genocide, or probably like talking about that. So everybody's welcome to go to that. I'm just trying to see if people are supposed to sign up in advance, but it is shared on the JVPRI page as well. So yeah, please check that out. And now we're gonna invite up, thank you again so much everybody for coming. We're gonna invite up Zohar from JVPRI to give some overview of the schedule tomorrow. Yes.
So for those of us who are fasting for the next 24 hours, we have scheduled a lot to keep ourselves in community and in connection as we move through the fast together and the physical somatic experience. We, JVP, will be at India Point Park tomorrow. We're going to gather by the dock, located on the waterfront in the middle of the park behind the fenced off field. I have sidewalk chalk, so I'll try to make that clear. And in addition to the park benches, we're going to have some chairs for seating and some pop tents for shade. And we hope to see you there. I'm going to just go over the schedule. It's also posted on Instagram. We're gathering at 11 a.m. At 11:30, there's a teach-in called Hunger as Technology with Andy Bernstein, a PhD student in Holocaust and Genocide Studies. At 1 p.m., we're doing our mourners kaddish, which both Jewish Voice for Peace and the Ocean State Chavurah have been holding every Sunday for over a year now, and we'll be doing it at India Point Park as a part of the fast tomorrow at 1 p.m. At 1:30, there is going to be a song circle that Josh just told me what it was called, and I forgot.
Songs to feed our hunger for justice.
Songs to feed our hunger for justice with Josh at 1:30. At 3 p.m., Remy and I are leading a workshop called Envisioning Food and Land Sovereignty in Palestine and Beyond. It's going to be family friendly, and we're going to do some interactive seed planting. And then at 5 p.m. with the Graduate Labor Organization, GLOW, we're leading a storytelling workshop called How to Tell Your Story and Build the Movement, 5 p.m. And then we're going to kind of start wrapping the day up at 6:30 p.m. The Dabke troupe is performing, and then we'll move into a closing ceremony with more speakers, song, and some ritual to end the fast together. And that's the schedule. It's posted on Instagram. We'll also just be at India Point Park all day starting at 11 a.m. There will be people to talk to you about how to get involved with Jewish Voice for Peace. Will be for those of you who committed to fasting and wanted to share a video about why you're making this choice. I'm sure that someone can help you create that tomorrow. And we'll also have a craft table that is kid friendly. There will be people from the Child Care Collective. Join us. Thank you.
Thank you for